We're here today to talk about real estate.
Hello and welcome back to the Real Estate Unlimited podcast. My name's Sierra Steinmetz.
Brian Shuby.
I'm Carrie Steele.
I'm Bill Jones.
And we're the Jones Home Team.
And this is episode 20 already, believe it or not. We've got quite a bit to cover here. We're talking about, what do we talk, Carrie? Like price of buying a house versus the interest rate versus your down payment.
Yeah.
Kind of the misconceptions people have with that stuff. We've got our friend here. I'll let Sierra introduce our special guest then. And then talking a little bit about what prices look like. This being a presidential, I guess, new year, what those numbers look like year in and year out for different presidents in the last like 4 or 5 years. Price, median price, interest rates, things like that. Some of it's a little bit shocking, but we'll get right into it. Carrie, I'm going to try to pull, we're going to go to our friend here, Zillow, right?
I think Zillow's a nice tool because a lot of buyers tend to jump on like the realtors and the homes.com and those. Zillow's nice. It's got a tool built in, and I don't want to favor any one calculator. I know Bankrate has one, and there's some other websites that have housing calculators, but Zillow's nice because it shows you the HOA, if there is one. It shows the insurance projected numbers. So we're not lenders by any stretch of the imagination, and we're not trying to come across. But when I talk to a buyer on the phone and they see a Zillow house and they say, "Oh, the payment is X, I can afford that," and I'm like, "Well, let's talk about that." So
yeah, because that's one of the things, Carrie, you brought up. A lot of the calculators online don't include the property taxes and insurance. It's usually just the principal and interest.
The principal, and if you don't know your interest rate, you're going into it blind, assuming you have perfect credit, and maybe you don't at this particular moment because it changes like monthly or weekly, your credit. So this tool, I think, is pretty nice if you have a rough idea of what you're going to put down, what you think the taxes might be, and you can go on the auditor's website and look at a specific area and see what the last year's taxes are to give you a rough idea. But let's take a look at this one. So this house is priced at $319,000. What people don't see when they're looking at those Zillow estimated monthly payments is what the down payment that Zillow automatically put in. So Zillow, based on this home price, they're estimating a estimated monthly payment of $2,062. And to the normal home buyer, they'll say, "Oh, maybe I can afford that. That's not much more than I'm paying, $1,700 in my condo now." But then if you scroll down and you look at the down payment, Zillow automatically by default plugged in 20%. That means not what you bring to the closing table, but just your down payment alone is sitting somewhere around $64,000.
And I would say not very many people bring 20% down. Usually it's 3.5%, 5%.
Yeah, and we're not talking about the repairs that need to be made to the place. We're not talking about your closing costs with your lender or paying your agent. So $64,000 on a $300,000 price point house is pretty significant. So they say, "Oh, well, I have an FHA loan or I have a VA, I can get zero down." So that's my next step. So that's awesome. If you can get a mortgage where you have zero down, that's fantastic. You don't have to bring that much to the table. But Bill, if you could change that number to a zero, and let's see what that changes the monthly payment.
So we're currently at $2,062.
Now your house just
$600.
Your house just went up to $2,600, and that's before all the other things that we talked about. So if you're rolling in those closing costs, if you're rolling in any taxes and fees and PMIs and all that stuff, I mean, that's a significant difference.
And that's also with a 6.78% interest rate.
That's with a 30-year 6.7. So if we're at what, 7 something now?
And then what did we just talk to? Yeah,
I would just do 7.
7, just 7 easy, assuming you have great credit, zero down.
I'm going to move it up too much, another $50 or
another
something.
$50 a month. But I mean, those are all. Do you have another 50
on top of the other 600?
And your other utilities, your electric, your gas, all of those things as well.
Basic needs.
Groceries.
And you guys have it too. Like you'll get a Zillow call, or you'll get a call from somebody, and they'll see a house on Zillow, and the payment will say, $550 a month, and they're like, "Well, that's not more than I'm paying now." But what they don't see is that they have to bring $15,000 to the closing or for a down payment. So again, this isn't like something super calculated. You'll definitely want to talk to your personal lender when you do your pre-approval process. And this is why, because it can dramatically change what your affordability is on homes that you're searching for. So that's my 2 cents for the day.
Well, you kind of touch on it then too.
Rate.
So it's not just your the down payment, but there's a lot of other costs. The banks have usually pretty significant origination fees and things like that. They have to get figured in. I think you mentioned
title
that, Brian.
Insurance.
Yeah,
and,
all
and
the other costs that are going to pop into that then too.
Yeah.
I thought one of these had a good breakdown of like additional. Yeah, this has quite a bit more.
Credit
There's a
score.
million calculators you can get on there and play with then too. But yeah, Brian, you had a great point to start with. Make sure you're including property taxes and insurance, because I don't know what everybody's market is, but I know our market, the taxes have gone up significantly on a lot of real estate too. So
yeah,
that makes
and
a
for
huge
taxes,
difference.
if you're like, I'm not sure what they are, you can always hop on, whatever county's auditor's website you're on and look at what the actual taxes are. So
Yeah, see all these calculators just immediately pop in 20% down, and I can't. It just seems like there's like almost the rich and the rest. I don't mean to put it like that, but it's like people either paying cash for it, or they're definitely not coming with $70,000 for a down payment. They're doing
3% or 5%.
Yeah, and there's some programs like a 1% conventional or something like that, to where 20% versus 1%. What's that?
And
look
that's
like?
great. I mean, to be able to do that, but then your monthly. Is it better to bring and pay down your monthly, or is it better to make the monthly and use the rest of your cash to
the
pay
number
off
of
debt, or pay your car payment off, or whatever?
Number of years to make a huge difference. I know, like you listen.
15.
What's Dave Ramsey's? Is a 15-year, 10-year, something like
15.
that? I don't know.
Yeah.
So which would be great if you could do that, but that also bumps. That's not calculating for some reason.
Maybe hit enter. Yeah.
I'm just not smart enough to figure it out.
Well,
It goes up a lot, folks.
yeah.
Probably double. I mean, almost double.
Yeah, this is not gonna work for me here quite then. Here we go, years. We'll go 15 year. There is Zillow figured out. Yeah, so if you go a 15 year, now your monthly payment's only $3,411, and again, that's with 0% down. So yeah, quite a bit. So I don't know, and then rates will do what they do.
What they do.
You know. I know, Brian, you're hoping for rates to go up, aren't you? Right? Yeah. So yeah, play with those. And again, like Carrie said, we're not financial people, or not whatever, but all these calculators are pretty accessible. And I think just be realistic. I guess go within your budget. If you spent every penny you have and then some, and you're checking under the mattress to put everything up front, then like we all talked about, then you have immediately your first payment, utilities. Putting, the first time you're putting groceries in the fridge isn't cheap.
And that's
Yep.
So, all right. Well, good stuff. I guess just a matter then too. I guess the house too makes a big difference. Maybe you look at those numbers. Maybe you can't buy. Maybe you want this 319 house, beautiful house. Janet's got listed, but if that number isn't feasible, like they're right here, they go down here pre-qualified. The first number they show you is $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
Which gives you 20% down, gives you all that. Maybe you need to lower your price point you're looking at. I mean, everybody wants as much house as they can afford, but that's something you got to look at.
I mean, and if you're looking at a house and you're not sure, I mean, call your lender and just say, hey, here's the address of the property I'm interested in, and they can give you a pretty close breakdown of what your monthly payment's going to be. And
like I said, utilities, because if you have a house that's maybe all electric and you're used to paying like a set budget of maybe $60 a month, now you're paying $175. That could change your monthly budget on what you're comfortable. I mean, some people have more money to play with than that, but I think for the most American, they budget down to $10 a month or whatever.
Right.
So,
and your electric bill goes to $700-$800 a month because you're all electric or something in a big country house. Yeah, that would be a big change. I don't. Yeah, that's. It's hard to, I guess, lower your expectations what you're getting with a house. But I think to your point, Brian, you want to be comfortable with that payment. I don't know how many times you guys probably got that too. You get under contract. They submit it to the lender, and some of the lenders like, oh, well, your payment's only going to be $2,700 a month, or whatever the number is, $1,500 a month. That's like, a big sticker shock. Like, well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, you probably should have had that conversation long before you even wrote an offer, let alone getting to that point then too. So, all right, well, play with those calculators. Call your agent, call your lender, figure that stuff out then too. So, all right, we'll move right into the next thing. Sierra, who'd you bring?
I've got the Matterport here today, right behind me here. It's basically kind of what we use for our 3D tours. If you see those online, a lot of our listings have them. We've got one pulled up here.
I'll include a link.
Back.
Yes, if you can't see it here now, I'll include the link in the notes here.
But basically, we take it and we lug it around with us, and it does a 3D virtual scan of every room, every spot that you take it in, to provide you with a walkthrough tour like we're showing here, that really gives you an in-depth preview of a home before even looking at it, which personally I've had clients come to me because they did the tour and they were like, we love it, it's perfect, it's amazing. And then you do a walkthrough, but they already have the questions because they've studied this thing like it's homework.
It's like you can literally walk through the house.
Yeah. And you can do multiple stories. You can do exterior photos and whatnot, and it will take you through everything. Essentially, we hook it up to our iPad and then do our scans. Here's the outdoor photos, the 360 photos there. And it gives you a really comprehensive view of a new listing, which kind of gets your foot in the door before you're actually physically in the door. So it's a really helpful tool that we use to market our listings and get more people aware of them. And it essentially uses multiple cameras inside of it to scan everything, and comes up with this after you put everything in. It takes usually a day or two, and then it kind of collates everything, and then you get one big masterpiece like this. So,
which is great for people too that are out of state or in this inclement weather. If you can't get in for our showing, it's really nice to show people, and then of course talk about what you're seeing, and then they out of area agents might say, oh, it's an hour for me. Is there any way you could show this buyer, or is there anything you have for me? And then you could present them with this. I think that's a win-win for everybody.
And I think with the out of state, I know actually probably this property, I think you've actually sold it. The people never even set foot in the house.
Right.
They just bought it. They studied it like you said, and they wound up just buying it sight unseen.
Pretty much, yeah. And it kind of helps weed out because there's always a difference between the photos and then when you're in there. Not saying with photos being doctored or whatever, but when you're actually physically inside a place, it can feel very different from what you see online. So when you can kind of literally turn the corners of the place through this tour, it helps weed out some of those buyers that are like, oh, I do like this, but I'm not so sure. But then they can go through this and say, oh, I don't really like how tight this hallway is, or I don't like how small this bedroom is, yada, yada, that you may not be able to tell from a normal photo then.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool things is it not only allows you to create the 3D virtual floor print or floor plan, however, we can also pull our still photos out of this as well.
Yep, that's a good point. You can get your normal photos that would be in the MLS anyways from these scans as well, which is nice because it kind of works for you in two different ways at the same time then.
I think it seems to blow sellers' mind. This house, so you mentioned it, Brian, the buyer never even set foot in the house, purchased the house, but a lot of times you're sitting at the closing table and they're finally like, I felt like I've been there 100 times because they're at night walking through the house virtually. And a lot of sellers just don't believe that that's going to be the case, that if you do a good job marketing it and use a tool like this, that you can really showcase a house without them actually even being there. It still, it blows my mind people do buy a house without setting foot in there, because kind of you're there, you can't touch it, smell it, feel it, get the whole. I think this does about as good a job as anything, actually not being in the house, as far as getting a tour of the place. But it's still it's a neat tool.
You can see, you can zoom in on, the ceilings and the floors. You can look for imperfections. You can look for cracking. I mean, it really is nice versus like if that were the only photo that you saw, you wouldn't see what the light fixture is above. You wouldn't see like the crown molding and all that.
Zoom in at the ceiling, the floor, everything in between then. And it's very shareable. We can embed it directly into our web pages that usually get shared to all the Realtor.com, Zillow, our page, anything that's got an MLS feed to it then. So should go out, syndicate out to basically the whole world. We can share the actual link. We can embed it in a lot of different things, included on YouTube. So it's a handy, shareable feature, I guess, that not every office has. I think we talked before, you can hire a professional photographer. Sometimes they have this, sometimes they don't. But we just as an office have had this for years. We made the investment, bought this guy, and gal, I don't know what.
I think you used it on our house way back when.
Yeah, it's been
impressed.
Years
awesome.
we've had this. So
the only thing I don't like about it is figuring out the tripod, but that's just because it's as tall as me.
Right. Yeah, and it's heavy too. You got to lug that thing around and make it work. Then it does quite a bit. So, but yeah, it's got. I mean, we were talking about the specs beforehand. I think it's got like 9 cameras. It's got an infrared sensor. The megapixels like 158 or 34 megapixels. I'm not even sure how.
I don't know if the average consumer can do it or not, but can they do measurements from like? Because I see there's like a little. The last one on the right.
I think
the last thing on the right.
I'm interested
where
in that.
you were at.
Bottom left.
That.
Oh
yeah, probably.
So like you
so
could measure
you can add,
the dining room or living room.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, you can get a good. So that's 17 foot.
Yeah. So I have a credenza and I want to use it in the dining room. Will it fit
Add
under the
another one
window
here.
or something?
Yes, I think this is from the consumer standpoint then too. So yeah, that's 13.5 foot.
So yeah, you can kind of get a general idea of room sizes, or like what Carrie said, measure a piece of furniture and see if it'll fit where you want to use it.
That's a really common request for me as an agent, is somebody saying, I want to go back in for a second or third showing for measurements, see if my desk will fit, see if my bed will fit, etc.
Yeah, you go into the living room here, you got a couch or a couple pieces of furniture you want to do then. Because, I mean, we include the measurements on every house we list. But, yeah, if you're specifically, will my whatever fit here, you know, you can kind of just go from there. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, Brian. But, yeah, you can definitely. I'm screwing it up now, but.
But
it's so
if you
easy.
have a specific piece of furniture or something that you know is coming with you no matter what, you're going to die with it. And you need to know if it's going to fit in the house. And there's one thing right there. Save yourself some time. Save yourself the drive and everything, and just do it on the Matterport then.
Right. So I guess advice for that then too, if you're selling your house, interview your agents, see what they're going to offer to, you know, what do they offer as an agent? What do they offer as a brokerage they're going to provide to you? What can they get as a third party to include into that? And ultimately, what's that going to cost you? You know, everybody's conscious of costs. You know, what commission percentage am I going to pay? You know, what fees am I going to pay? Is that included? Is it not? You know, can they do that stuff? Everybody has a lot of perception of like one agent's the same, you know, we all kind of do the same thing, but that's not true at all. Our availability is different. The features and services we offer, you know,
we had talked about that before, where there was those added fees after, and it was like they were charging them several $1,000s. Was that Matterport?
That was like
photos.
a Reddit.
Yeah.
Photos or something. And so, yeah, it is important to ask up front what is included in, you know, paying their agent.
Yeah. And know if you're going to get something badass like this, that's going to be part of what you're paying them, or if you're going to have more upfront costs than that or whatnot. So
right. And we've talked about we can talk more later what we do and offer, but I mean, as far as for the website, embedding all this stuff on there, you know, doing actual video, doing drone photos and videos and things like that, to where, is that included? Is it not? Is that, I don't remember what the article was, but it was like thousands of dollars, wasn't it? They were charging those people.
And I'm pretty sure that in their opinion, the photos or whatever were pretty inadequate for what they
what they were paying then too. So, all right. Well, cool. I like it. And then how are we getting this back to the office now?
That's on you.
All right. We'll flip right into, it's I guess, new year, new president, 2025, not political at all. We're just talking numbers then. So see if I can pull this up, if it'll work. I thought it was interesting to see kind of what the numbers were going to look like for presidential years. And a lot of people get worried about as far as what are the numbers going to look like. Housing prices going up, interest rates going up. So we were talking before we went on, rates 2023, end of 23, they said end of 24, rates were going to do what?
Drop.
Go down. Everybody's expecting another % or two lower than what they are now. I pulled several different sources, threw it all in a chat GPT and said, okay, let's figure out what this looks like. So accuracy, I'm not sure is 100% necessarily. You know, we are dealing with a computer program, but it did kind of compile it all pretty nicely. So they're expecting 2025 for the number of homes to sell. Again, this is nationwide in the millions, 4.5 million homes, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually down. So from the last presidential year, which was 2021, 6.1 million, which is one of the highest in almost 20 years then too. So we're going to be down considerably from that. But if you go just from last year, we're actually going to be up. So last year and the year before were some of the slowest years we've had, 4.1 million and 4 million. They're expecting this year to be 4.5 million. But other side of that, everybody's expecting pricing to go down. They're expecting prices to increase still. So I know we talked previous podcasts then too, to where the headlines are, housing prices are dropping by 50%. Well, they're dropping by 50% of gain of what they were maybe last year, but they're still going up and fairly considerably. Same thing with rates. Expecting the average mortgage rate to be 6%. Nobody's got a crystal ball. Who knows if that turns into that or not. But again, last year the average was 6.7. Year before that, 6.5. And then we go back to 2020, 3.11, which
what a year.
Yeah, everybody's waiting for that. Yeah, 2021, 2.96 on average. So, some people were getting quite a bit lower than that. And I just don't know that it's going to ever get back there. Why any of us are still around. Yeah.
Why was 2005 so high for number of homes?
The number of, so
Was there any significant event, or was
because
it
that's the
just-
year I got licensed. That's
Oh,
why.
got it.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
I
why.
figured.
Yeah, that's the year I got
heard you were
licensed.
coming.
Yeah, and
They
they
said,
started
"Let's go."
selling houses like crazy. Then, yeah, I think that's just to where that was the housing boom that subsequently caused the 2008
Market
crash.
crash.
Then
Okay.
too, to where everything was. They were giving money. It wasn't a housing thing. It was a lending financial thing. They were giving money to anybody that was alive.
Gotcha.
At that point, if you're above ground and had a pulse, you could get a loan.
Awesome.
Yeah, there really wasn't much more to it than that. So that's why it just kind of went up and up and up every year. But then, yeah, come 2008, I think I can remember exactly what the numbers were there, but you can see 2009, it was down quite a bit, and it took years to get back up again. So, but yeah, again, the pricing was 2005. Yeah, our median price was 219. Fast forward 20 years, we're at 410.
Gag.
Yeah, so almost
That's-
double in price.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sick.
if you go back the other way,
Yeah, so
I mean,
yeah, 89. Let's go.
the only thing that's consistent is that it's going up.
This is before you're born, Sierra, but this is right after I graduated. So yeah, 145 median price. But again, interest rates then
Yeah.
7.6%. So those number of sales, homes sold, were pretty close to where we're at now. So those are 4.24. But that's just kind of where it always was. I think it was, these were starting to hit high numbers. Again, not that long ago, 20 some years ago, those were considered high sales numbers. But you go to today, they say, oh my gosh, the price, the number of homes have crashed. There's nothing actually moving. But again, the numbers we're looking at, it's getting more back to a normal-ish market.
Yeah,
I
everything
guess.
was so inflated for a while
Yeah.
that it makes what we have now look so puny,
Right.
though it may be more regular.
But it still should, again, looking at the stats they pulled up here then too, they're expecting this year to be, I guess, more of a normal market or balanced. I shouldn't say normal. I don't know what normal is anymore. Nobody does that. But more of a balanced market to where it's stabilizing, number of sellers and number of buyers kind of evening out. You go back to those numbers, 2021 all the way through 5 was definitely, a lot of things were moving. So sellers could ask whatever they wanted then. So again, a seller's market. After that, definitely turned into a buyer's market because there was hundreds of extra homes for sale in every market, or thousands of extra homes, to where even today, I mean, over the weekend, we had a couple houses that were on the market that ended up with multiple offers, sold almost immediately. So I think it just depends on the house for sure. But yeah, they're expecting things to, I guess, quote, stabilize to where the inventory, the amount of inventory and amount of buyers should kind of level out. But again, level out at prices of median $410,000 is pretty substantial. I mean, our market's gone up quite a bit. I mean, it seemed like it wasn't that long ago. It was $130,000 was kind of the average. Now we're at like, what, 170,
Yeah, I would
180,
say,
something like
Yeah.
that. It's kind of the average price point, even with those 6% rates. So I don't know. What's your guys' thoughts, predictions? I don't know. None of us have a crystal ball.
I'm not holding my breath for anything to change drastically with rates or anything like that anytime soon. But
It'll probably be in that 6 to 8,
yeah,
unfortunately. And if there is a price adjustment, it'll be just a price correction, a softening. I don't think you're going to see some significant, I'm going to wait until I get a 2.98 mortgage rate and my house is going to be 65,000. That's not.
Yeah,
It's
you're
not a
not
thing.
gonna see the difference from
never get a house.
2005 to 2009, the
No.
219 to 172.
Get you a nice camper.
Yeah, I don't think it's that. Well, and we've talked this to death into everybody waiting for this big crash again. Everybody's waiting for this big housing crash. I've heard that since COVID, I think. Prices started going crazy and everybody's been waiting for the housing prices to crash. So we're talking 4+ years and I still don't see anything that's going to make that happen. Not even close, even with rates being high.
I mean, even the number of foreclosure homes is down significantly
Yeah.
from what it was.
Yep. That's so. Again, if you're looking at these stats, they're just expecting prices to continue to increase. Rates may or may not come down. But again, they say like 6% is kind of the norm or a healthy market, I think is what they consider that. So if interest rates are close to 6, I know everybody wants this 1.99 kind of stuff, but I just don't know that it's ever going to get there again. So I don't know what you do with that. So I guess buy now.
yeah,
I know you guys are real estate agents. You're just in sales. That's what you're going to recommend always. But the last several years, prices have continued to gone up. Rates really haven't dropped. So you do that math again. You go back to what you're talking, Carrie. I don't know if you're
Buy what you can afford. Buy what you can afford now. We
Yes.
talked about you need $70,000 for the house that you want. You can't get it. Okay, then buy what you can afford. invest in that property and then use what equity you can from that towards your next purchase. And that's where, that's where some people end up getting what they want. It's not that everybody, has a wealthy mom and dad that just gives them X amount of dollars to buy a house. Some people have to work at it.
Right. So let's play with that real quick. We'll go back to your calculator. So if they're expecting prices, it says 9.3% up. That's a little more than what we looked at last time. So let's just say another 10% to this 319 would be, that's a lot of math real quick.
Quick
That'd be,
math.
well, here, this will help us here. Down payment, 20% or 10%, we'll say. What is that? That's 30,000 more. So let's say 350. So let's say if you wait another year, that home price goes up to 350.
Enter. There you go.
Even if you're 0% down is
Almost
$2,900. So let's just say you can even do your 3.5%. Oops, 3.5%. Yeah, your payment's still substantially more, even if rates drop a little bit. Let's say we do get to that, 6.5%. I don't think it does a lot to. Yeah, you're still at 27. So if you're waiting for, let's even do 5.5%, get to that, and prices go up another 10%. Yeah, your payment's still significantly higher. So play with those calculators again. Nobody's got a crystal ball, but I think if prices still go up, that's what's going to get you more than waiting for a 0.25% drop in rate. I don't know. Well, that's all I got. So I'll hook all these numbers up here then too. But I guess if you look at, that was interesting. If you go back to way back in time then too, 10% was. Again, 89.
Wow.
That seems like when the dinosaurs were around, Sierra, but they weren't. I promise you. So
what was that? I just saw a meme. It said, if you were born before, what's the date Google originated? If you were born before the date of Google, which was what, late 80s, early 90s.
Sure.
It said, I told my kid I was older than Google, and they laughed, and they said, oh, there's no way. And then he said, I actually had to look it up and show them that I was older.
Actually
than
older
Google.
than that, yeah.
I'm like,
So
drops my head. Aw.
So, but yeah, so rates could be quite a bit higher. I had a rate at one point. One house I had, we refied at 9% interest rate. That was terrible, but I mean that's what it was. So, all right, well that's about all I got on that. Anybody else anything to throw in here? It's still cold. We're looking forward.
Colder.
Yeah, getting colder here. I feel like I guess what's your guys' thoughts on the market? Things start of the year.
It was busy for me. I think it's been busier earlier, which is so weird because it has been colder colder than can be.
I'm not like running around like crazy, but I have more than I normally would in January.
Yeah. That's weird. Because I was predicting like mid-February, late February, around February 15th, February 20th. That's when things start to get, pick up. And it was like first of the year.
Yeah, normally I'm a skull and bones wasting away on my desk right now.
Yeah. But that to me usually means that your spring's going to be crazy. So if you're already getting phone calls and stuff rumbling now, I feel like you're going to be.
Should I leave for Florida tomorrow?
Yeah,
right.
Take
a quick.
Well, you plan a vacation, you're going to be super busy.
Yeah,
you know how
true.
that goes too.
That's
so
100%
it'll all
true.
come flying at you then.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I don't have a whole lot else to add here. What do you guys want to?
Next week,
Next
Valentine's.
week? Valentine's. Yeah, we'll
Valentine's
talk
Day.
some stuff with that.
Love
We
in
had
your
some
house.
ideas. What was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some love ideas. Kelly asked me, she's like, what are you guys talking about Valentine's? I'm like, I don't know. Carrie had some cool ideas for
I'm excited.
what that would look
We
like.
cooked on that. I'm excited.
All right, we'll leave it there then. That's episode 20. The step back next week, episode 21, Valentine's, and we will talk more then. Make sure to like, share, do all those fun things, and we will see you then.